So I have been looking forward to Snezhnia since I started playing the game because Tartaglia is my main. Like many, I wasn't expecting something like a Nod-Krai patch, but nonetheless, I considered it something of a soft launch for Snezhnia. So I was still very excited, and thus far, it's been everything I wanted and more. Hi, I'm Petal, a fairy VTuber, and I even had a redesign based on Legends of Baltic Regional Fairies scheduled for Snezhnia's release. So you can imagine my excitement when the story confirmed my theory that Flins could be a fae. It was a theory born more out of a desperation for a Snowland fae character than anything, which I didn't even bother with a video about, but I'm glad it worked out. Aside from that, though, the main story also showed me more interaction between the Traveler's siblings, my favorite pair of siblings. I know, it was technically Radir wearing the Abyss sibling's face, but even so, he must have played the part convincingly enough if he fooled the Traveler for even that short amount of time. Anyway, I'm incredibly interested in where their story is going, and I always look forward to uncovering more about their past. That said, I've gotten very used to their story being a slow burn. I thought we would probably not even get to use the moon marrow to figure out the whereabouts of their spaceship until next patch. Imagine my surprise when it was shown to us in just the following act. But of course, Genshin being Genshin gave us a new riddle to solve. How did the Abyss sibling find the traveler from outside the spaceship if there was no sign they ever left? The simplest explanation is still that the Abyss sibling was teleported out of the ship when the Conrian summoned them. But while I don't subscribe to conspiracy theories in real life, it's way more fun to pursue complicated ideas in fiction, and that's what I wanted to discuss today. A timey-wimey, fucky-wucky theory that explains how both Traveler siblings can be our canonical MC and the part that Irminsul, Asmodee, and Ishtaroth might play in their story. Now is the time that I give another disclaimer. I'm not the type of theory crafter who knows a ton about a ton of different subjects, so a lot of my theories on what will happen are based on patterns I recognize in storytelling and what I think are common themes and motifs that certain writers or teams of writers tend to rely on. So I'm predicting based on my understanding of how stories tend to play out. That said, if there are interesting things that Genshin references in our real world that might affect your theories, please let me know. I still find learning about all that stuff interesting, and some of it does inform my predictions. With that out of the way, let's finally get into it. And to start with, time travel is incredibly difficult to write and unravel, but the possibility was definitely hinted at during A Space and Time for You. With the Four Shades identities being revealed in the Teyvat chapter interlude teaser, The God's Limits, around the same time, I thought it could be possible to manipulate the Traveler's siblings into walking down an infinitely looping path, in which they take turns playing the role of Abyss sibling and Traveler. Let me explain how I think this would work out. I'm going to start using names now because things will get very confusing if I refer to them as just the Traveler and Abyss sibling. Keep in mind that I play as Lumine and she will be my stand in for the Traveler, so Ether will be the stand in for the Abyss sibling. But it won't really matter by the end. According to Ether, at a critical point during the Cataclysm, Diridith came to him with news of Lumine. She had with her the key to the spaceship, reminding Ether of where to find Lumine and Nod-Krai. Even though he was prepared to fight for Conria, he was given the opportunity to see his sister for the first time in God knows how long. So he chose his sister, rushing to her side. He found her asleep in the spaceship with her key, woke her up, and tried to flee Teyvat. A time paradox is introduced here since three keys to the spaceship now exist in the same moment, and this suggests both Ishtaroth's and Asmodee's involvement, though Ether gives all the credit to Ishtaroth. But I don't think it's a coincidence that on their way out of Teyvat, they were met at the gate by Asmodee, who then trapped them both in her space cubes. Ether woke up first, witnessed the collapse of Conria, and traveled Teyvat with Dainsleif. Somewhere along the way, he learned how Dainsleif let Conria down. I have a whole separate theory about this, but let's stay on track for now. And they split up. Then he founded the Abyss Order and has been working toward the goal of reviving Conria ever since. Meanwhile, after 500 years of sleep, Lumine woke up and met Paimon, beginning her own journey across Teyvat. The events of her story went as we have been following them in the game. Currently, Lumine is in pursuit of Ether to get him to come to his senses so they can move on from Teyvat. I believe she may also come to realize a particular truth of the world. This isn't the point, but I actually believe there are a variety of truths to be discovered. For example, Albedo was tasked by Rhine to find the truth of the world, but ultimately came to the conclusion that that was just to get a life. Others, like Lauma and Wanderer, have discovered the truth of the false sky, but neither of these seems to be the truth that Ether alluded to in We Will Be Reunited. Or else he would have been able to leave with his sister already. He has implied, though, that his current mission is somehow connected to the goal of finally reuniting with Lumine properly and leaving Teyvat with her when the time comes. As he says at the end of A Space and Time for You, it's always been about us. I believe that Lumine may one day come to realize that the truth is that the ether she's been pursuing all this time isn't really the ether who landed with her, or at least he isn't from the same time as the ether who landed with her. That ether is in the spaceship. After all, she never saw him leave. So, what will she do? Go back to the ship, of course. She can still wake up her ether and get out of Teyvat before he has to experience the pain of abandoning Conria. But I predict that when she tries to do just that, they will be met at the gate by Asmodee, and the events from the cutscene at the start of the game will unfold. And the game will reset. That is, Teyvat will reset. This time, Lumine will wake up first, witness the collapse of Conria, and travel with Dainsleif. Ether will wake up 500 years later, and he will be the one to travel with Paimon, and the events will unfold as we have already seen them. The twins will have just switched roles. That the story will begin all over again isn't a brand new theory. I've heard people throw this around for a while now. I just think I have some idea of how to explain it now. During the Sumeru Archon quest, we were introduced to the idea of samsara. This is something that Hoyoverse loves to use time and time again. In any case, it's possible that every time Teyvat resets, a new samsara cycle begins. For my theory to work, the reset point wouldn't be from the beginning of its little world, though. What if the reset point is actually just from the time of the cataclysm, which is why that cutscene is where our story begins. Another crucial part of Genshin's lore was explained to us in the Sumeru main story, Irminsul and the ley lines. More importantly, Irminsul and the ley lines as a record of the history of Teyvat, as well as a keeper of all the memories of the people of Teyvat. This could also be used to explain how the siblings can so easily switch places, and why Dainsleif acknowledges whichever sibling he travels with as the prince or princess of Conria that he once knew. We just have to remember that the records of Irminsul can be rewritten, and so can people's memories. So, as long as the events of Conria remain intact in the historical record, what does it matter to Irminsul which sibling is remembered as being the prince or princess? I actually want to take this further and say that perhaps this is the reason the existence of the Abyss sibling was absorbed into the ley lines. It was so their memories could then be extracted and implanted in whichever traveler sibling was chosen to wake up first, the one who would witness the collapse of Conria and travel with Dainsleif on a mission of guilt to bring that Conria back. There's actually a hint of this from very early on in the game. It's only one clue, but if it was intentional, it must mean it's important. At a certain point, the traveler says that they do have some memories of Conria, which I'm sure took many players by surprise. Looking back at that line now, it actually feels like it contradicts new information from A Space and Time for You, when Ether tells Lumine that he abandoned Conria to find her in the spaceship, which we know is in Nod-Krai. So she should have no actual memories of Conria, unless these are remnants of memories from when she played the role of the Abyss sibling. As for the whereabouts of the spaceship, it's possible Asmodee continuously hides and unveils it according to when it needs to be hidden from or found by the sibling playing the role of the traveler. It's also possible that, with Istarat's help, a hole is torn through space and time itself, much like during the cutscene in A Space and Time for You, when Ether and Lumine meet to take the traveler to the sibling in the spaceship. And of course, who would have tasked them with this duty? Probably the Kevinly principals.